My name's Jared, and I've been working the night shift at a Walmart in Fresno for just over a year now. It's not a bad job. The hours are quiet, and I've gotten used to the routine. Stocking shelves, watching the security monitors, and dealing with the occasional late-night shopper. Nothing too crazy, or so I thought. That changed one night around 2 a.m. It was a typical shift, or at least it started that way. My coworker, Ethan, and I were the only two employees on duty. We always joked around to pass the time, and Ethan had stepped out for his break about 15 minutes earlier. It wasn't unusual. He'd go out for a smoke or sometimes just sit in the break room and scroll through his phone. But when I looked at the clock, I realized he'd been gone longer than usual. I decided to check on him. Maybe he lost track of time or fell asleep in the break room. But when I got there, the break room was empty. His half-empty soda was still sitting on the table, his bag was there, and his jacket was hanging on the back of the chair. It was weird. Ethan never left without his stuff. I figured he might have stepped outside for some fresh air, so I headed out back to the parking lot. His car was still there, parked in the same spot as when we arrived at the beginning of our shift. I walked around the lot, calling out his name, but there was no sign of him. The store was eerily quiet, more than usual. That's when the uneasy feeling crept in. Something wasn't right. Ethan wouldn't just leave without saying something. I went back inside and started checking the aisles, thinking maybe he wandered off to the back of the store. We've had our fair share of strange customers who like to hang around late at night, but the store was dead. Not a soul in sight. I even checked the restrooms. Empty. I was about to head back to the front desk when I noticed something that made my stomach drop. One of the emergency exits in the far back corner of the store was slightly ajar. We never use those doors unless there's a fire or some kind of emergency, and even then, an alarm would go off if they were opened. But there was no alarm, just the door cracked open, a faint breeze blowing in. I hesitated for a moment before walking over to close it. My hands were shaking as I reached for the handle, and that's when I saw it. A single black glove lying on the floor just inside the door. I bent down to pick it up, but something made me stop. I don't know what it was. Instinct, fear, maybe both. But I left it there and quickly shut the door. My heart was racing now. I went straight to the security office and pulled up the camera footage. I scanned through the time since Ethan had left for his break. And there it was, Ethan walking down the aisle toward the emergency exit. He didn't look like he was in a hurry, just casually strolling. But as soon as he approached the door, the footage cut out. Just like that. For about 5 minutes, there was nothing but black. Then, when the cameras came back on, the door was slightly open, and Ethan was gone. I called the police immediately, my hands trembling as I dialed the number. They arrived quickly, their presence filling the quiet store with a sense of urgency. They searched the entire store, combing through every aisle, the parking lot, and the surrounding area. They even reviewed the footage multiple times, scrutinizing every second for a clue, but there were no leads, no sign of where Ethan had gone. It was as if he had vanished into thin air, leaving only his car, his belongings, and that lone black glove behind. The glove was puzzling, a piece of evidence that seemed significant but led nowhere. The store was shut down for weeks while the police investigated, turning it upside down in search of answers that never came. They questioned everyone who had worked that night, including me, repeatedly, trying to find a thread to pull, but no one had any answers. The investigation hit a dead end, and eventually, the case went cold, with Ethan never seen again. I still work the night shift at Walmart, but things have never felt the same since that night. Every time I pass by the emergency exit, I get this sinking feeling in my gut, like something is watching me, waiting. I try to shake it off, but the memory of Ethan haunts me. I'll never forget the sound of that door creaking in the stillness of the night, or the sight of that single glove lying there like a forgotten clue to something much darker. Something that took Ethan right under our noses. And every time I walk through those empty aisles, I can't help but wonder, will I be next?